podcast once again, coming to you live and direct. I want to say thanks to the Coalesce Group for all that you're doing in the education community. Thanks to Fruit Off the Vine Clothing Apparel for girls and women. We appreciate everything that you're doing to address self-esteem and all of those wonderful things that comes along with consciousness. So to you that are viewing, I want to say appreciate you for supporting and following us on this platform. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, that we might be able to flood this internet and this platform with a lot of content, and I believe that you'll enjoy it. But before I introduce the topic, I want to give it to Charlie Mack and let him holler at you.
In the building once again. We back to give it to you guys raw and uncut is what we do. That's the pilot. I'm the co-pilot. You guys are the passengers. Put those seatbelts on real tight, and we about to get this thing pushing. But before we do, we don't own the rights to this music, you dig? But we gonna show a groove to it. Ain't that right, Cam?
Yes, sir.
So once again, put them seatbelts on, guys. We gonna get this thing pushing.
Well said, bro. Well said. Once again, another interesting topic that you have presented that is so worth discussing today. And the topic really, it's probably going to hit home for most, and for others, they'll dismiss it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people feel a certain way about mortality and immortality. But it's worth the discussion.
Yes, sir.
And so the topic today is our mortality written? Is there a such thing as predestination? I really believe that it is so. I think I'm a stab at it to a certain extent, and then I'll let you pick up from there.
That's cool.
But when I think of mortality and immortality, of course it comes from a spiritual consciousness, even a scholarship, brief scholarship on some of the study that I've done and just reading about it. But I like to look at it from a personal experience through how I've lived my life to this point.
No doubt.
So I think that's relatable for even you, the viewers, if I just kind of use my own personal experience of what I think of mortality and immortality. So with that being said, I really believe that I'm just reliving a plan that has come from our Creator. God the Father may not be your creator,
right.
But the creator of the universe, the creator of humanity. I really believe that a plan has been set for my life, and I'm walking it through as He knows it. Or a lot of people don't even like to put gender on God.
Right.
And if you read the Bible does talk about God being a spirit. So we know that it is explained in a masculine way. So that's why the English writers referred to God as the entity, as a he, right? Okay, so without going into all that deepness, I just really believe that certain things that transpired in my life happened when they were supposed to happen and how they were supposed to happen, even though a lot of things I made bad decisions. I made judgment calls that either delayed it or altered it or prevented it from taking place at that time, when at the end of the day it was supposed to be the way it
was
out. Yeah. So that's just my first take on it. I'm gonna throw it to you and see what you think about it.
It's funny because when I thought about this topic, I said, dang, he ain't gonna want to talk about it. But I did. But I said I'm gonna give it to him anyway. And when you agreed, I was like, you kind of shocked me. He was like, oh man, let's do that one.
Yeah.
So that kind of shocked me. But
yeah,
I've always thought that everything happens for a reason, and I've always thought that you know, when we come out of the womb and, you know, we're babies up until however age we get to be. And when we wake up, I've always thought it was, you know, everybody's given a deck of cards to play, and we have to play the hand we're dealt.
Yeah.
And I never thought that no matter what you do, you're going to make yourself live longer or whatever. I've always thought that whatever's written, buddy, there's nothing you can do to avoid it. You know, perfect example, and a shout out to Big D, Derek. You know, him and his family and his loved ones. We just lost him on an incident, and that's the thing that made me talk about. You know,
Derek Smith.
Derek Smith. Is it already written for us? And this guy was a hard working dude.
Yeah, we can dedicate this show.
We gonna dedicate to Derek Smith and his family.
Yeah.
This show is dedicated to him. But if you guys have been following the news, that guy that was ran over in his guard shack, we know this guy. We know him very, very well.
Yeah.
And I just saw him a couple of months ago, and I hadn't seen Derek in probably 40 years.
Yeah.
And he saw, oh, Charlie, man, you look the same. You know, you look like you did out of high school. And I'm like, oh, man, this is this dude there. But he was always a good guy, always was a real, he was a gentle giant.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this guy was at work. How people, like my boy Kevin Bevins hit me up on Facebook and said, you know, he's like, what buzzard luck? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, nah, it wasn't really buzzard luck. It was meant to happen.
Yeah.
It was already predestined for that to happen. He wasn't supposed to make it to 55 or whatever. For him to be at work in a guard shack off the street and a car come through and wipe the whole thing out, come on, man.
Scenario.
You have to look at that and say, how unlikely or how likely is that to happen when I'm at work? And I mean, people always want to argue with, you know, oh, why could this happen or why did that happen? But I've always been a strong believer in everything happens for a reason. Of course, we get sad when we lose friends and loved ones. But I never question the higher God and say why.
I got you. I
always say to myself.
Always? Have you always felt that way?
You ask any friend that know me and any relationship I've ever been in, I've always talked about that, and I've always felt like whatever's meant to be is meant to be. Perfect example. I'm gonna give you this scenario, and then I'm gonna let you take a stab at it. We all, pretty much all of us, are born, and we all have two sets of grandparents.
Yeah.
We have the mother and father on our mom's side and on our dad's side.
Yeah.
Well, me and this gentleman here, we only have one grandmother left. Everybody else is gone.
Yeah.
Our grandmother that's still here is 92 years old. She never worked out. She never went walking. She never, ate the right stuff.
Yeah.
And she lived for 92 years.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people, they run 20 miles a day. They're vegans. They're doing everything that they're supposed to do.
Great point.
And I watched the guy drop dead at 30 years old. Army guy, buff, whatever. Physical specimen.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why I say
I got you.
Everything happens for a reason. People are here because it's in the cards.
I got you, bro.
It's in the cards.
I got
why
you.
is mother still here and Big Mama and Big Daddy and our grandpa, Papa, is gone?
Yeah.
But she's the only one left. 92.
That's true.
And she didn't do anything different than them.
No.
It wasn't like any of them were athletes and ate right and didn't do whatever, but she's still here.
Southerners.
She's here because it's in the cards.
Yeah.
Whenever it's time for her to go home, it's going to be time.
I got you.
But it's in the cards.
That's valid. And I don't think anyone logically can argue that. From a scientist to a biologist to a lay person.
How can you? It's reality.
Yeah, I don't believe that we can fight the fact that some things occur in our lives that doesn't occur in someone else's because of the plan that was set forth before we were even seeds in our parents' womb, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at I look at some of the things that I went through in life, right? A lot of them was my decisions. I can truly say, which I believe altered my arrival to that certain destination. But even with that, I believe God, the higher being, knew that I wasn't going to make that decision because I was going to, eventually make the other one. But obviously that was my experience that was predestined. I went away from something what perceived to be probably cool and good and fell into this, but he knew that, right? So lifespan, as you spoke to it, lifespan has nothing to do with how well we take care of our bodies.
Nothing at all.
Right?
Nothing at all.
Now it does have everything to do with how comfortable we'll be in that span.
Exactly.
Because that's the power you have over what you put in your body.
Exactly.
So you might live to be 90, but you gotta live 50 of those years with diabetes.
Exactly.
On oxygen.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But you still, your lifespan.
You're still living.
So okay. That's interesting. I think people are gonna really get a earful on this one. Now, when we were talking off the air about predestination, I went to the Bible, which talks about in Romans 8 and verse 30 and 31, it talks about predestination. So from the actual aspect of what Paul was writing pertaining to, let's just say, I'm not taking it out of context.
Yeah.
We know that Paul was dealing with the call of God that's on our life, right? So in that call, it doesn't necessarily limit Paul's conversation to a preacher. He's not just talking about the call to the ministry, the call to missions, the call to evangelism. He's not just limiting it to the call of a ministry. He's saying that the call itself is from God, which understands what you're predestined to do, to be.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's in the scripture pertaining to predestination. So he knew who was going to accept him, who was going to reject him, who would live with him eternally, who would be separated from him eternally. So the bottom line is, God knows all that.
Yeah.
So we're reenacting what he knows
Already.
because we've never been here before.
Right.
This is our first rodeo. And this is the only one we get in this natural state.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's noteworthy, even for you viewers, to chime in and to discuss what your position is on mortality. Yeah. Is your mortality written? Or have you been predestined? Do you even believe in predestination?
Yeah.
Because we can all reflect on experiences, and that's why people usually say, man, if I'd have just made that investment, I would be set 20 years later.
You think you would be set.
Right.
You could have made that investment and then checked out a year later. You don't know. We all, hindsight is 20/20, and we all go back, because I even do it and say, oh man, if I would have done this, but I start thinking about it, I'm like, well, you know what, I'm right where I should be, because this is this is the cards I was dealt. I mean, you done?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, and this is for the viewers, I'm talking to the ones out there who know that they've been in some stuff through their lives, and they're in their 20s, in their 30s, maybe in their 40s. I'm talking to the streetwalkers. I'm talking to the dope boys. I'm talking to the dope girls. I'm talking to all of them. I'm talking to the gangbangers.
Yeah.
I'm talking to all of you guys.
Yeah.
Think about everything you've been through in your life, and all the bumps and bruises that you took, and you had to duck here and duck there.
Yeah.
Think about why you're not dead. Because it wasn't meant for you. It ain't your turn
incarcerated.
yet. It ain't in the cards.
Hey man, a lot of us, man.
It ain't in the cards. Okay, I even think about my life and everything that I've been through, and people shooting at me and trying to get me and stuff my brother went through and all that, and we still here. And we talking over 30 years ago, this stuff would happen. Yeah. But if we go back and think about our lives then, we would say to ourselves like, man, we not supposed to be here. And I remember I never forget this, dude. When Walter Payton found out that he got sick, he was crying. He was like, "Why me? Why me? Oh, it's your turn." I mean, not like that. It's your turn.
No, it's your turn.
Because
you're not exempt.
And then we start thinking, and I'm going to tell you another thing that made me think about this, dude. Think about all the people who have abused their bodies for 30, 40 years and live to be 100. I'm talking about like the drug addicts that was on heroin, drinking alcohol every day. I'm talking about the alcoholics that still get up in the morning and drink, and for the morning, noon, and night. They're still here.
Even the homeless people.
They're still here. So don't start saying, why me? And this person's over here living their life so foul. Well, guess what? That's how they living just the way it was written. Yeah. And they going to check out when it's time to check out.
I got you.
We all check out of here when it's time. And that's why we don't have a say when it's time to get out of here. That's why we got to live our lives to the fullest.
Every day.
And you got to be happy in your life that you're in now. If you are unhappy in your life or unhappy in any kind of relationships, you know, if you look at your age, if you're 50 and over, you got more time behind you than ahead of you.
Yeah.
So start being happy and start living your life. There's no sense of being involved with something when you're unhappy.
Oh, you're right. You know, attitude of gratitude, right?
There you go.
And I tell people, you know, that are close to me quite often, bro, I live day to day.
Me too.
I live life to the fullest.
Me too.
I don't have any regrets.
Me too.
And I enjoy that.
You have to.
I said I'm responsible enough to know that I owe my children an inheritance. I get that. And you know, that's why I work hard so that they will be able to enjoy something.
Yeah.
But I'ma still go out every day and have fun with it. I'm you know, I'm not gonna, if I get some lemons, I'm gonna just make some lemonade.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just the reality of understanding that my life is scripted.
It's scripted, man.
It's already in the cards.
It's in the cards, man.
The dash is my life.
Yeah.
The birth is the year, and I don't know what the end is.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna live.
Yeah.
While I have the opportunity.
Yeah. You can walk out right in the middle of the street right there and get hit by a car and live.
Right. Well, yeah. Remember we talked
it's
about
your time. When it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah, because remember we've known people who've got shot in the head, point blank.
I know a guy personally.
Shot in the chest, and they live.
Yeah.
And they're
100% recovery.
Yep, living a productive
life.
Wasn't
their time.
It wasn't their time.
I know it. Listen, resting in peace, my boy Phil. We worked together. This guy got hit on his motorcycle. Wasn't even a bad accident. Mm-hmm. Two of my friends. Phil broke his ankle. 3 days later, he dead. From a broken ankle. From a broken ankle. So, you know.
He had like a blood clot?
I don't know what happened, but
But the bottom line is he out of here.
He out of here. Over a broken ankle. He didn't get shot in the head. He didn't have a massive heart attack. He didn't have a massive stroke. He broke an ankle. Yeah. When it's our time to check out of here, man, we don't know when it is, but when it's your time to go, it's nothing you can do about it. Right. I mean, zero.
Because I was as you did, but in the late 80s, I applied for an EMT job, right?
Well, I was a paramedic.
So I'm going through the progression of taking the class and studying and all that. But we get to a place where we had a field trip to the morgue, right? The bottom line is they were letting us know that young people, healthy people, pass away too.
They end up on that slab.
And they said, we've cut open a lot of people, and there was absolutely nothing physically wrong with this person. Yeah. And they were young.
Yeah.
And they passed away.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, well, how did you deem the cause of death? Natural causes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the timing of it, like you said, is not in our hands.
Yeah.
It's already scripted.
Yeah, and it's so funny you start talking about the morgue thing. Well, you know, I used to work in the cemetery business and the mortuary business, and I've been up in the prep room and watched embalming and watched the human body. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something. That was the thing that made me say, like when people always say, like, you know, in the Bible it says, you know, this is a shell, and you know, when we die, our spirit go. It is a shell. That's it. I've seen everything out.
Yeah.
And on the table, and I'm thinking like, wow, this is a human. And when you gone, you gone, dude. Yeah. It ain't no.
I saw that because you took me up in one of.
It ain't no get back.
You
dude.
took me up in that area.
It ain't no get back.
Wow.
You know, it ain't no get back. And when you watch someone, you know, laid out on that embalming table, and they cold, and this the discoloration, and you know the chest is wide open because they just came down from the morgue.
Okay.
Because that's what they do to you when you come out of when you go down to the morgue downtown. Yeah. They cut you open, do the thing. You know, I didn't see the cap peel back.
In the bag too.
I didn't seen it.
What?
I've seen it, dude. More than once. I've seen it.
Oh, because they gotta get the brain out.
Well, yeah. Everything is in the bag. They put your cap back, and then the cap is already peeled back. The whole chest cavity is open. They cut you like a baseball stitch like this, and you wide open, and everything is out. And you know, male and female, and young and old. The babies hurt me a lot.
Okay.
When I would see the kids, I'm like, oh man, this is a little baby. But when it's time to go, man, it's time to go. Yeah. And that's why I always believe that you can wake up in the morning, take a shower, put your shoes on, and this is one thing that G. Welly used to say a long time ago. You don't know who's going to take your shoes off later on that day. No, think about it.
Yeah.
Either it's going to be you or somebody else. Yeah. Think about it. You wake up and put your shoes on. You don't know who's going to take them off at the end of the day when it's time for you to go to bed or whatever. Yeah. It can either be you or the doctors.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. If someone came to you in a discussion, just wanted conversation.
Okay.
And they asked you what either was your opinion or if they just disagreed with the concept that you and I have agreed upon, that it doesn't work that way.
Right.
That you have control over how you go out.
Right.
You know, because I've heard people say that to me, like, man, step out in the middle of that traffic, you're a goner. I said, well, not necessarily.
Exactly.
You can get really badly injured and never walk again and be over there living a quadriplegic.
Before I lose this train of thought, I'm gonna just say this real quick. Whoever went to Morningside or Monroe, and you probably remember this guy too. There was a teacher, and his name was, I never forget this guy, Mr. DeLuca.
Oh yeah.
He was taking LSD and jumped off a roof and ended up being paralyzed. He wasn't fully paralyzed, but he had to walk on them things for the rest of his life.
I remember him.
And he was a teacher.
And that's what happened to him.
He told us a story. He was taking LSD and a hallucinogen and jumped off the building and lived.
Wow.
But he's walking in those things. So, like you said, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Yeah.
It wasn't his time.
It wasn't your time.
Shout out to Mr. DeLuca.
Wow. So
somebody came to me.
Somebody came to you,
okay,
and just pretty much disagreed, not in a hostile.
Right. But they just disagreed.
How would you support your position on, mortality?
It's not about me supporting my position, but I would let them see reality. I would give them a few points and a few examples, and then see what their answer is. Okay. I would say I would pose to them a few questions, and I would have them look at a few things. Okay, well, this is what I would do. I would say, okay, well, how do you explain this? And I would tell them about our grandmother, and why some people, you got people that live to be 105 right now. Yeah. Ain't never ate right in their life, ain't never exercised, and these people live in the South. Some of these people live right here, but they still living.
And not even going to the hospital.
Nothing. So I would
not even getting sick.
I would pose all those questions to them and let them see what they can come up with. And I would just because we're not experts on this. We're just giving our opinions and what we see as reality. So look.
But it's great content, because it's one thing no one can deny on our part, is that we're living our life. So an expert on anatomy or science can never come in here and tell.
They can't tell you.
They can't tell us
how long you gonna live or when you gonna check out. Nobody knows.
Because
so that's it for it. That speaks for itself.
Okay, brings me to this point.
Okay.
Some people get sick. They go to the hospital to get diagnosed. They say, hey, you got stage 2 cancer. Or stage 4.
Right.
Matter of fact, we didn't know it was this bad. You got 6 weeks.
Right.
Bro, them 6 weeks turn into like
10
20
years.
more years.
It happens all the time.
You know, and then what about the miraculous things that take place where now you go back and they don't even see the cancer? What happens? So obviously that was just a part of your testimony and your experience, because that's not how the story ends. You wasn't supposed to go out under those diagnoses.
Yeah.
You lived another 20 years with something that they said you couldn't live with for 6 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. They have been babies that was born who the doctors have told the parents, well, they probably won't make it to their 6th birthday. And then they end up being 26. But the doctors can't explain how. Or like, well, man, how, you know. But that's what I'm saying, man. It's in the cards.
I listened to a guy, he's a gospel artist. He's a very versatile talent, very good. I believe his name is Travis Green, right? And that's his testimony. He was supposed to pass away as a child, as an infant, you know, something that happened. He had failed from, I think he said 2 stories. You know, wow. He literally fell. And I was listening to his testimony, and here this man is like late 30s, married, children of his own, and a fantastic artist.
Yeah.
He's making music. He's productive. So obviously that wasn't in the cards for him to die in his infancy.
No. Because
as a toddler.
No, because sometimes these doctors are just doctors. They know books and whatever. And I'm not saying that doctors don't know, because doctors, we need doctors. And I think doctors are super intelligent, and they're, a lot of them are experts at what they know and what they do. I can remember me being, I think I had to be 5 or 6 years old when I got stabbed in the head with that screwdriver.
Yeah.
And the doctors told Mom, well, you know what, this guy, he's going to have to get put on phenobarbital. And that's the thing that helps with seizures and stops seizures. Yeah. And my mom was like, I'm not putting him on no phenobarbital.
Right. So it can do something.
And I never had a seizure in my life. From 5 years old, I'm 55 years old now, 6 years old. So a lot of times these doctors say things
from a medical
standpoint or from what they kind of think may happen, you know, but they don't know. Yeah. A lot of times if they can see the problem and know, but a lot of times when they don't know is when they start guessing.
So that's why we call it a practice. You know, they practice medicine, and thank God for the gift, because some of them are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, we know that. But you know, it's really interesting, because look at some of the guys when we were about, 10, 12, and they lost their lives.
Yeah. And
then others are still here with all that history. Been wounded, been shot at. You know, think about this, man. I don't know if you ever thought about this.
Okay.
Dude, Poonie never been shot.
I never thought about that. You're right.
And that dude was on the front line from day one.
I never thought about that.
Dude never been shot.
I never thought about that.
Think about it.
I never thought about that.
He didn't really get
thought about that.
Any physical friction until he went to the pen.
I never thought about that.
You know, they got knives in the pen.
I never thought about that.
Think about it. He never been shot.
You're right.
And
a bunch of them that have.
Man.
We know 2 dudes that have been shot a few times.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Think about that.
I never thought about that.
So, it wasn't in the cards for him. Nor was it in the cards for him to die in these streets.
Yeah.
And we talk about that a lot, Mom and I and others, because as well as I do, she would have never been able to take that.
No.
She would have never been able to deal with that.
No.
And it was really surprising to see how she dealt with Pi's demise and how Pi transitioned. Because I I can't relate to a mother's pain
Of losing a child.
of losing a child.
Yeah.
I would never even try to attempt to say, well, I can think. But I do know with Pony, she wasn't ready for nothing like that.
Yeah.
At that time, I don't know if she would have maintained her sanity.
Yeah.
If something would have happened to him.
Yeah.
In the streets.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
You know what I mean? I mean, you know how close she was to him, and how that relationship. I mean, she was the only one that could control him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, he played and goofed around with us, but I mean, he didn't listen to us like, hey man, you shouldn't do that. You know, he was like, man, serious.
Yeah, you're right.
Serious player, you know. But I do look at it like that, as the predestined part, the mortality that God has control over, the plan of action that he has laid out through purpose for each and every one of us. And a lot of people won't take the religious perspective that I'm taking.
Right,
and I get that. That's fine, because we do have a natural aspect of looking at it too.
Yeah.
So no matter how you spin it, the creator is still in control.
All day.
You know. And so, I mean, you know, I'm going to throw it back to you, man, and let you finalize it. But I really, I feel close to this topic for some reason, because I believe that there is a biblical explanation.
Right.
And then it is ultimately, and I'm going to say this, it's ultimately our experience. Just go on your own experience. Look over
That's
your
it.
own life.
That's
Go
it.
travel down through the corridors
Of your life.
and you
you'll
make
get the answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You make the determination.
Yeah.
So we're not making this analogy for you.
Just look at your own life. That's why I told people that's listening, go back, look at your life, look at all the stuff that you've been through, look at all the times when you told yourself, man, I'm supposed to be dead. Look at all the risky activity that you guys have done, and then you'll come up with your own answer with that. You know, you used to say, man, I'm supposed to be out of here or whatever. I came up with it. And what you just said is so true. If you go back and analyze your life and look at it and rewind it to the point where you know you start being a knucklehead or whatever you was doing, and bring it all the way, you know, to the forefront, and then you can come up with your own answer and say, he got a point there in terms of, you know, when it's time to go, it's time to go. Because some people can look back and say, I should have been gone a long time ago.
There you go.
You know.
Yeah.
And then that way, and then you can also say, well, why did this little kid at 6 go, or why did this kid at blah 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 go 13? Because we lost a lot of friends in teenagers.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
And some of them, you know, weren't even bad kids, but things just happened. You know, we lost our cousin Jeannie at, 14, 13?
She wasn't no teenager. She was 11.
11
I mean, we talked about it
Right,
before,
right.
but she was 11,
Right.
bro.
So you know, you question life, and you question, you know, especially if you're a biblical person, you question God, you know, why would you take, you know, but God is sovereign, and he does what he wants.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that aspect about, you know, the higher power.
Yeah.
You know, it happens. If it's in the cards, man, it's in the cards.
Yeah.
It ain't, listen, guys, it ain't nothing you can do to dodge it.
Yeah, and then there's so many biblical scripture that really gives us insight. And it's not just the Holy Bible. You got the Quran.
Yeah.
You got other religious material
That says the same thing.
That speaks to morality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And mortality.
Our immortality and things like that. So now I'm thinking, if you want to, this is just a suggestion to me, go to Romans chapter 8. Just read it, you know, verses 1 all the way through the end. And that'll give you some idea of what that perspective, you know, is saying through the Apostle Paul. But I believe your greatest revelation is going to come through your own life. That's where God is going to be able to speak to you and show you, okay, I'm the sovereign one. I'm in control. Because when you popped all those pills and tried to commit suicide, you woke up in the hospital after having your stomach pumped. It didn't happen.
It wasn't
You know
time.
what I'm saying? It wasn't time. You know, like
time.
what went wrong? You know,
It
but
wasn't time.
I'm gonna let you end it, man. But it was like this was a great discussion. Hopefully we can build on it. But thank you for viewing, and I'm gonna throw it to Charlie Mack and let him close us out.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and if you guys enjoyed this particular topic or any of the topics that we talked about, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Don't hesitate to call in if you want to come on the show and debate it and talk about it. Then we can. There's no topic that we talk about on this show that we're not willing to bring someone in and give you the business. So if you want that work, come on up in here and get that work. We don't have no problem giving you that work. And so this dude crazy over here. So thank you guys for tuning in. And listen, guys, if you guys like the show, don't forget you like, you subscribe, you share. But don't forget to subscribe. But we do appreciate the audience that we have. One thing before I check out, I had a viewer contact me and say that one of the topics really helped them take a look at themselves, and it really helped them. So that made me feel good about what me and my brother is doing. If we can just help one person out there by any of these topics, if it hits home and makes you take a look at yourself or make you back up from doing something that you would have done until you heard the show, we've done our job. So thank you guys. Peace and love. Take the seatbelts off. The plane is stopped. Peace and love.